Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Unquestioned Podcast with Louis de Baarde and Willem Himpe. Luigi, my man, the Patagonia VC boy from Ghent. How are you doing?
This is a serious episode.
This is
Boardroom gear, tactical gear, and it's episode 51. We didn't even celebrate 50.
Congrats, we didn't celebrate 50.
Yeah.
Keep going. We need to go to the triple digit, guys.
Yep. Triple
Um,
digits.
so we're not quitting yet. So you're not getting rid of us anytime soon, I would say. But to go straight into the episode, Luigi, we have an amazing episode for you guys, specifically around a famous investing asset. But we'll first start maybe with a fun question. Luigi, what was your, let's say, worst investment, or let's say where you're still in the middle of the night wake up from, like, why did I do that? That's maybe a fun question I want to know about you.
I have no regrets, Willem.
That's
But
what they all say.
there is one stock that made me grin. I was a shareholder of Twitter back when it was a public company, a
Mm.
badly run public company. Shout out Jack Dorsey. I don't think it's necessarily because of him. But before Elon bought it and took it private, I was a shareholder, and so I was bought out when for a nice premium. But I was a believer, and I didn't get a chance to see it now go public again because through the XAI and SpaceX merger, Twitter is now back on the public markets, and I believe it must be trading higher, or it's about to trade a lot higher than the price I paid initially for whatever I paid for the stock.
Yeah, well, but is this like an example? You weren't able to influence that. It was became
Well, it
private.
did give me a chance. You can't really hold a piece of a company that's private. I mean, not like in a limited, not on a small piece. So yeah, I feel like I was right to believe in it before Elon was there, but yeah, I'll never get the fruits of that vision, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's a bit like, I as well feel like there's a lot of initiative on trying for regular investors to be able to buy private stock and so on. And I feel like that's a movement that should happen more and more, because there's a lot of wealth on the table that gets created before company is public. So I'm a
Absolutely.
very big fan of it. Well, I think it's only fair to as well for myself to share
You have a big one.
a big one. I have two, actually. Let me start with one that is very sensitive to my heart right now. Is my public or private parking spot here in Amsterdam. That is setting me back each month like €450. So that is
That's rent in Brugge and Bruges.
that is rent in a Belgian city. Well, I have to do it because I'm really asking the permit. But in Amsterdam, there's a very little parking space, so there's a waiting list to be able to park on the street, and I'm on there, so I need to do it, because otherwise, yeah, you could say you don't need a car, but I'm a startup founder slash salesman that still needs to go to people. I cannot let my AI agent go to people to close the deal.
Scarcity is still there in the physical world.
Correct. There's the scarcity that's in the physical world still taking money out of my pocket. But and another one that is really connected to the topic of today, and that's Bitcoin. I always, in my young years, I think it was 2016, I bought a couple of Bitcoins because I was part of a financial student organization, and there were a couple,
Multiple.
yes. Well, now currently it's painful to go back to that memory, but I think I own 3 of them when it was still at the price of 900 euro. So a bit more, was I think $1,000 back then, and yeah, it tripled in price. And I said, like, wow, this is a big bubble. It's gonna pop. I 3x my money, the little investment I put in, and then I said like, very well done. And then I saw months and then years later it go to the moon. So that is still a little bit of a painful one. And the lesson I learned there is, if you buy something for the long run, don't buy something for the short term benefits. And that's as well my strategy today. I buy assets that I'm gonna hold for the rest of my life, and maybe sell only when I'm going to retire. That I
Wow.
can. So that's so Bitcoin. That was actually the
So you
topic.
were a believer earlier on. I'm a bigger believer now, but you were earlier than me. My story is I bought at the peak in 2018 at 18,000,
Mhm.
and then it crashed for a few years, but I held on. It was only $400. So wow.
Well,
Well,
maybe to set off the episode is like, some people maybe have heard of Bitcoin. Maybe some people think still it's a scam. Some people are really deep into the potential and put all their money, put even their mortgage behind Bitcoin. But let's start off from just starting from the scratch. A definition. I kind of what is Bitcoin? What do you believe is Bitcoin, Louis? Let's start off there.
well, I know that it's a form of cash on the internet. And by cash, I mean a physical dollar or 100 euro bill. That wasn't possible before, and we'll explain why in a second. What do you think of that definition?
I like it and also don't like it. So the reason
I have
why.
to explain myself. You're
Yeah,
skeptical.
we'll go. Yeah. For the audience, I'm a little bit more skeptical of Bitcoin. I didn't invest it immediately because I amazingly believed in it. I did see that there was some value, and also the media probably, or my inner circles manipulated a bit me in buying it, and I made a profit off it, so that's amazing. But the I in the beginning as well was thought that this is going to be a kind of a currency, like you can buy your coffee with euros in Europe, and same with dollars. I think, okay, we're gonna buy everything, be able with Bitcoin. It's gonna be another way to transact goods and services. I was wrong, and we still see that you can do a transaction, but it's not a majority. It's very in unique cases, and today it's mainly used. I see it as a store of value, and they also often call it as the digital gold. And people see it more as an investment, less as a transactional good, but the technology behind it is as well, let's say, good for be able to do transactions.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. It did start off as a currency, but let's take a step back. We were talking about scarcity.
Hmm.
Why am I comparing it to a piece of paper, to a banknote? Well, just like we saw in Amsterdam, in the real world, um, when there's not a lot of things and you can't you can't create new space for more parking spots, you can't create more beach, you can't create more shoes, like if they're rare. That's what makes them valuable. And that's exactly what we don't have in the digital world, because you can easily create thousands of copies of something. And that is what Bitcoin enables you to do, is trying to replicate the properties of the physical world into the digital world.
Hmm.
And this may sound very obvious, but if I um, hand something to you, like it doesn't have to be valuable, like a rock or a stick, like it goes from being in my hands to your hands, and
Right.
you have the stick now. It's yours. I can't take it back.
Hmm.
And and that's what happens when we pay for something with cash. If I have a 5 euro bill, I buy a lemon or something, I hand you the 5 euro bill, and nobody can reverse that transaction. It's super obvious.
Hmm.
But what happens when you're doing things digitally is there's always there used to be a third party that was necessary, like a sort of administrator, if you will,
A referee.
that would say, okay, this went from this account, from Louis' wallet to well, I mean, you could think of any system like, let's say you're booking a cinema ticket and you need to select your seat or a theater seat. Well, there's always some organization that's saying, okay, both of you want this seat. First, you get the seat, and now it's assigned to you. And if you call them, maybe they can reverse the transaction.
Mhm.
And that's the novelty of Bitcoin is we're trying to nobody can basically reverse your transaction.
Yes, nobody can reverse a transaction. And the other thing you said in the beginning, um, in the world of internet, everything can be copied, so there's less scarcity. And in the way Bitcoin exists, they artificially created scarcity. So what does that mean? Is they in the code there's only 21 million Bitcoins ever going to be created. And that is artificially making it more valuable because let's say everyone wants a piece of that 21 million and they know there's never going to be a 21 first or 21 and an extra Bitcoin, however you say it. So, but my, let's say, to go a little bit on that, that is artificial scarcity, which is amazing and people will value it more because we value things that are scarce, but there's nothing backing it. It's still just, let's say, numbers digitally in a computer. There's not, let's say, a business behind it that does something unique and that each month creates more and more value to the world that gets rewarded for it. It's all based on belief. You could say the same thing is about the euro and the dollar, but the
Absolutely, that's a good point. Just like nothing really backs the dollar, if you think about it, except the U.S. says, "Hey, I'm in control of how many dollars there are," and all our the whole U.S. Army is basically backing it because that's the point. The point is the scarcity, and if we all stop believing in it, which people are arguing, they're saying this is the greatest fool theory at work. You know, I'm foolish enough to pay. You paid $900 for it. Somebody else 1,500. But you always need to count on someone valuing it more or valuing it enough at that time because they want to buy a house and they want to trade some Bitcoin for you. So I'm not arguing that it's not based on belief, but what we're seeing is there is a need for something that even the government um, cannot control. So even the government can say, hey, this transaction, you made this payment, we need to reverse it because that's what was happening before. If I made a mistake and I sent you €1,000, there's still a chance for me to call the bank and explain things or say, oh, there was a bug, or the government saying, "Hey, this is a terrorist. You can't. He's now blacklisted," and that's not possible. Just like the internet is written in ink and not in pencil. Sometimes it's very unfortunate. People get bullied because there's images of them online and we can never get them back. That's kind of how it is built.
Mm, okay, well, to double click on that, the yeah, Bitcoin is written in ink. So once a transaction is made, it's not anymore, or it's practically very difficult or impossible to reverse that. That is a feature, let's say, in the existing financial system where the government or the banks as intermediary is an amazing thing because we humans, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. So why would we want to get rid of that feature? Because it makes it, let's say, good because I can make a mistake and it can be reversed. Okay, the annoying thing is I lose a little bit of wealth or a little bit of money because the banks take a little bit of a transaction fee for that service. But I'm happy. I'm like, take that transaction fee every time. No worries, because then I don't, if I put 2,000 euro into a scam account instead of, I thought it was my grandmother, then I can reverse it. So that's a little bit that I'm saying in Bitcoin, why I see it's very, very dangerous to have a lot of transactions on there. And yeah, uh, what is your response to that, Luigi?
We are on the side of the government. No.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
No,
I think they both have to coexist.
that's fair.
Um,
It's fair. It's a little bit like wartime technology. You're right. Like, if I'm a good citizen and I want some protection, why would I want to use that? Well, it's because you can count on it and you can trust that no nation state, not your own, not another, is going to mess with it. And this enables better collaboration. So think of organizing a meeting for different heads of state. Let's say
mhm.
Putin of Russia, Xi of
China.
China, and Trump want to come together. Where will they do that? Well, they'll find some building. But what if,
On
you know,
neutral ground.
if Putin said, "Hey, this building is built with a special type of Russian concrete, and I know the recipe. I made the mixture. It's special concrete, and I'm not going to give you the ingredients."
Mhm.
Like, would you trust coming together with people in a setting that you don't fully control? No, you want a neutral terrain. You want neutral ground, and luckily, most buildings that we know are built out of I don't know, steel, concrete,
Mhm.
and we know the properties of those things, so we can trust them. They are neutral, and that's what we're trying to do with Bitcoin. Is we're trying to find a neutral means of payment, so that we can't like rug pull you, as they say, or move the ground beneath your feet by changing the properties of money, which is actually quite possible. You can be sanctioned. So what we saw during the war is we can say you can no longer work with these institutions if you pay in dollars, or very important for some people, no inflation. You can't dilute, you can't print more dollars, and that's something, if you control the currency, that you can do, and that's a way to make people poorer.
Okay, to translate it a little bit, um, it is a good way to have, let's say, this store of value or this way to transact money, while there's no, say, human entity that can influence, based on their actions, the value of it, because we cannot control the euro value, because it's possible that the next government says, okay, we need to print a lot more, which will make our euros a lot less valuable. So we'll see all our euros that are on our bank account be a lot less valuable. So that's a danger. Where Bitcoin, no one can influence it in a way. There, it's let's say a little bit more secure. But the one thing to push back on that is, and as well, you have to be secure that enough people have Bitcoin, enough people believe in the store of value, and that it's going to be remain. Because if, let's say, tomorrow everyone sells their Bitcoin, then suddenly the price will drop immediately, and you're taking a bet in a way that won't happen. Where it could be the same for the dollars. Everyone doesn't trust the dollar anymore, and they want to change it into euros. That's also a bet you're taking on the U.S. Economy. Um, so that is a little bit. You have to be still a betting man. If
Yes, it is a bet today. So there's some upside rewards. The price can still grow by a lot, but who knows what else? If a killer comes along, or if actually people are happy with gold, which also has all those properties, except it's harder to transport.
Mhm.
So you are kind of, for example, banks will give you money if you put a some stock as collateral. If you have 500,000 euros of Tesla stock, they'll say, okay, we can give you a loan, and that's backing it. Same with real estate, but they don't do that for Bitcoin yet, because
Yet, yeah.
maybe not enough people have shown that they have something to lose by not having it. So that's the bet you're making, that in the future banks will do that because they see it as a neutral store
Mhm.
of value.
And to be the opposite of a critic, I believe that will as well happen because, in a way, it is a lot nicer to or easier to store a little bit of Bitcoin than to own gold or other stuff. Let's say, so it's and it will be more and more adoption because banks and other people, there will be a little percentage of their wealth in Bitcoin, and then the more people who have it, the less likely massive drops will happen because it's in the benefit of everyone to keep this artificially scarce thing alive. So that's why I as well believe it's still going to go up a lot, regardless of the current price drops, because more and more adoption will happen, more and more people will know about it, and at a certain moment it will be a stable, let's say, investment or a stable way to store value or to store your money, because it will, yeah, grow just
Well,
based
we're going to flip the narrative. If you think
on.
of the what's cool about the euro and the reason Bitcoin doesn't work as a means of payment is the price still fluctuates.
Hmm.
So if I want to buy €1,000 laptop, one day it would be 850, and the other day it would be 1,200. That's no way to have like stability.
Correct.
And so that's why currencies like the euro and the dollar are optimized to keep their value at least in the short to medium term.
Yeah.
But there is inflation, and Bitcoin does another thing. Bitcoin is trying to keep its price stable on the very long term because you can't create more of it. But why is it going to keep growing? Well, because the euro and the dollar are simply losing value because more of them are being added each year with 2 or 3% inflation, and we're seeing that in real estate because we can't create more real estate.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I agree with that. But maybe one last argument that I wanted to give a little bit of pushback.
Yes.
Let's say we all love that. The one thing that makes me annoyed about Bitcoin, or what people do, is they store, let's say, Bitcoin on a USB stick on their and put it underneath their mattress. Maybe they also have a pack of euros and dollars underneath their mattress. But let's say it's if you lose that little USB stick, then yeah, you lost your wealth. But let's say there's there 10K in a bank, on behind, with your name on it, because your ID is connected to it. Whatever happens, even if that bank goes bankrupt, usually there's things in place that it will still go to you, but you will never find your USB stick because maybe your cleaning lady threw it away because she thought it was just a little toy when
Insurance,
you were
what if
young.
you send something to the wrong address? It's lost forever.
Yeah.
I agree. And banks are not going to go away. What's what will end up is most people will still be using banks and interact with it that way. And the way I like to think about that is we all go to the grocery store to get food like vegetables and meat.
Hmm.
Actually, most of us, probably everybody listening to this podcast, but that doesn't mean that if you're passionate about having um, gardens in your vegetables, that you can't, from start to finish, plant some seeds, grow some tomatoes, and then eat them and inspect um, what happens to your food from start to finish and be in full control without having to go through the supermarket, your the chain, the brand that you know, doing that for you, like the plastic wrapping and everything. And you trust them, but you don't have to.
Hmm.
And that's even rarer. You can also choose to go hunting and shoot like I don't know, some
Funny.
yeah, some wild so some birds or whatever,
So moving
and
to
cook
Vigo.
that thing. But
Hmm.
what if the government told you no, you're only allowed to go through a certified store, a certified butcher? We wouldn't like that, and that's what what is the case with money today. And what Bitcoin allows you to do is to inspect, hold on, I'm going to check this technology called the blockchain. There's only 21 million coins. I want to be able to verify that this piece is actually mine. And the person that I transferred to also wants to be certain. And we don't have to go through a third party. There's no bank that's going to say, trust me, because that's what a third party does. But most people will still choose to do that. But then again, it becomes easier to pick a different bank if you don't trust one, or if you're really paranoid, which again, most people won't do that. That's really an anarchist dream. You can play your own bank, and that wasn't possible before. You can have your money on your virtual mattress if you really want to.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Well, maybe to wrap up to the listeners, like, what is your final conclusion of the state of today in Bitcoin? And as well, don't give financial advice, because we're not anything that we said to this episode to be fully legal is not investment advice. But what is your concluding thought of Bitcoin today and its status going forward in the future? And I'll give you mine.
It's good because it keeps power away from the state. We used to not have a separation of church and state. That's why the Puritans, for example, because they wanted to have the freedom to practice their own religion, would take the boat to America because they had that freedom there. In the same way, it's good to have a check on the power of the state and separate currency from the state. We don't want them to meddle. We don't want them to freeze our bank accounts just because they say so, or make us poorer via inflation. So we're taking some of the power back. And if you think about it, if you disagree with the policies of the EU or the central banks, there's no way to go against the euro, to short the dollar, just like you can take a short position in a stock. Well, now you can buy Bitcoin, and as the dollar devaluates, you don't have to, because you can't buy a small piece of a house, but you can buy a little piece of Bitcoin and keep your purchasing power that way.
Correct. Well, my final thought would be, I see it as well as a way to store a little bit of your wealth as a hedge against the government currency or things you cannot influence, based upon the belief that more and more people will adopt it, and that it, let's say, all the people that currently holding it won't immediately sell it off and put it into other assets, because everyone in the community, just like everyone in America and the world that owns dollars, they're invested in keeping the value of it stable or increasing it. And I think the same thing will happen with Bitcoin. And there's still a big jump going in the future. But I don't think it will ever be a transactional means, but I do think it will keep growing as a good way to store value, disconnected from any government who prints or who influences the value of a currency. So that's maybe a long, lengthy final thought myself on Bitcoin. Okay, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I think this was an episode where we went a little bit technical. Hopefully, we tried to really simplify it. We didn't lose you.
We didn't lose you on the way.
And for people that were into Bitcoin, hopefully you enjoyed kind of this discussion and gave you some new ideas or some new insights, and as well on what our, let's say, point of view or stance are with this new, not new anymore. I don't know how many years, I should have checked, but it's since 2008, so it's now already almost 18 years old. So it is an amazing technology, and I think we'll see more of it in the future. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and we'll be happy to see you again on another episode of the Unquestioned podcast. See you guys. Bye.